everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the Do I Have That Indie Book Challenge. So this is actually a challenge that I have created myself. I have created all of the questions. It is based on the do I have that book challenge, or do I have that romance book, or I think there's a fantasy one as well. I've done both the original Do I Have That Book, and I've also done the romance version, and I have not found an indie version anywhere. This is partly inspired by a live stream that the Indie Accords did. So that was Jordan and Lana, when they were basically introducing Jordan to the channel. Lana rebranded her channel to the Indie Accords channel, and we were doing questions of hey, do you have this type of book? Do you have that type of book? And it made me think I need to do an indie book challenge. So that is what we are doing today. Some of the questions I have here I feel like are a little bit easier than others, so I'm not making this a challenge where you are timed to find the books, especially since I know a lot of us that read indie books read ebooks or audiobooks and that kind of thing as well. So you don't have to purely have physical books. You can also include your ebooks, audiobooks, your TBR books, like things that you haven't read. If it fits the challenge questions, do it. And so, yeah, I have 15 questions here, so we're gonna be sharing, hopefully, 15 books, and I'm very excited to get in here and show you the books and share this video with you all. So that is what we are going to do. So the first question is, do you have an indie book with water on the cover? And for me, I'm going with Our Bloody Pearl by Dee and Bryn. So this is the special edition nerdy book box book. So it's actually very pretty with sprayed edges. Although I know Dee and Bryn just released, I think, a hardcover version that has this sort of same cover art. The original design also has water on the cover, and this was a book that I read during the very first Indie Accords, which would have been, what, in 2021? I absolutely love this book. 5 out of 5 stars. It has sirens and pirates, and it does get a little bit bloody and stuff at places. The atmosphere of this was something that I devoured, and I just absolutely also loved the representation that we had in here, because our sirens in this world are non-binary. We also had an asexual pirate, and we had a sapphic side couple. We have people of color in this world. We also have one of our characters dealing with paralyzation. They have disabilities here too. I literally devoured everything about this and could not shut up about it. I think I made Lana read this. Lana, did you finish this book? Because this was my favorite book of the entire first Indie Accords that I read. So yeah, water on the cover. Prompt number 2 is, do you have an indie book with a weapon on the cover? Now I know there's gonna be a lot of fantasy books that probably fit this one. I decided to go a little bit different. I decided to go with Eat, Pray, Die by Chelsea Field. So this is a book that I read during a reading authors with the same name as me video that I did, what was it, a couple years ago now? It feels like forever ago. And this is a contemporary cozy mystery sort of thing. There is supposed to be romance in here eventually, but it doesn't really show up in this first book. And basically our main character of Izzy is a poison taster, and basically in this book these people get hired to protect rich people, and things go down from there. But I really did like the mystery in this one. It is quite funny. Our main character is quite snarky, and she is in silhouette, but she is holding a gun on the cover. Prompt number 3 is, do you have an indie book with a body part on the cover? Yes, people on the cover do count for this. This is 100% up to you, but I have some books where they just have random body parts on the cover, and one that I picked, which maybe isn't a fully random body part, but I picked Liar, which is the second book in the Scarab Beetle series by C. L. Stone. These are older indie books, and I'm still reading these, and they come out every so often because this author's working on a couple different series concurrently. This one is her new adult series that is set in the same world as her young adult series, but almost every single book in this series has that head cut off trope thing that you see on covers sometimes, which I just think is hilarious because it's not really a design choice that happens much anymore, but it was very prevalent like in the 2010s. So yeah. This is a series, like I said, that is new adult. It is a Why Choose romance, and this is another one that has sort of like conspiracies and mysteries happening with it, but I really liked the characters in it. I don't think this series is fully finished, and I know I'm not even caught up yet on it, but I have fun reading these every single time I pick them up. They are a little bit campy and stuff, but they are great fun, and we have people with no heads basically on the cover, so that's why I'm counting it for body part. Prompt number 4 is, do you have an indie book with a pretty naked hardcover? Or this could also just be a book that has no dust jacket. So for me, I'm going with A Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova. This is one of her young adult series that has elemental magic. Book 3 and book 1, this is book 1, have magical trials in them. Book 2 is a little bit more conspiracy heavy, and this series is still ongoing. But one thing I absolutely love, and this happens with I think all of Elise Kova's books, is that under the dust jacket, they're so pretty. Like, this is her standard edition indie hardcover book. The fact that indie authors can do stuff like this because they are indie and they get to help design their own stuff, like, I love these so much. And then, like I said, this is a young adult fantasy series that I have absolutely been loving because it has magical trials and elemental magic and fae and different stuff like that, and yeah, I absolutely love these, and they're gorgeous to boot. Prompt number 5, do you have an indie book that you bought or read purely because of the cover? I'm going with Groupie by C.M. Stunich. This is a book that was one of the first ones that I read by this author. I have since read many other books by this author. I have also purchased even more than I have read because I like to support her. But this one here has a gorgeous cover. And besides having a gorgeous cover, all I knew about it was that it was adult, Why Choose Rockstar Romance. I think that sort of goes with the cover because there is a guitar on here. It is very steamy, so just know that going in, which isn't always my thing, but I personally love this series so much. I have reread it a couple times. I will say that this book does have some difficult topics in it, but I liked how those were worked in to the actual Why Choose Romance. And so yeah, when I first picked this up, I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew the cover was gorgeous and I had to read it. Number 6, do you have an indie book that can be read on Kindle Unlimited? So if you don't know about Kindle Unlimited, this is a service by Amazon where you pay a set price per month and you get to check out books and read them, and authors get paid per the page number that you read. So while it's not the best price per page, like if you were actually just buying an ebook for an author, they're gonna get paid slightly more. This sometimes does extend to more people, for new authors especially. I see this happen a lot with like first books in a series. Authors will put them out there so that people who have this service can then read it, fall in love with their stories and the author themselves, and then start buying books. So a book that I actually did the opposite of a little bit, it's all on Kindle Unlimited, but I actually purchased the first book for myself on ebook, is the Criminal Intention series by Cole McCade. So the first book is one that I actually own on ebook, and I've since read the first 2. It's a super long series that I definitely need to read more of, but it looks like every single book is on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have this service, you can actually check these books out and read them and then return them, and you don't have to worry about spending a whole lot of money, because this first series, like the Criminal Intention series, is like 26 books long. And it's basically because this is a series that is like a crime procedural TV show. So each book is like a new episode in the TV show. We're following 2 different people of color detectives who are also gay and bisexual, and so the crimes that they're solving do sometimes have to deal with LGBTQ. Like, I know the first book deals with gay men from colleges being killed, and so it does get very dark, but I absolutely love the characters, and especially in the first book, they're dealing with being brand new partners to each other, so there is some conflict there, but the fact that they're solving these crimes, some of them are quite gruesome. The crime in the second book actually isn't as bad. It's not like murdery stuff, but I absolutely love the character development and everything in this series, and all of them are on Kindle Unlimited. Prompt number 7 is, do you have an indie book that you originally read as either an ebook or an audiobook and then just had to buy a physical copy? For me, that's going to be The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This actually happens with a lot of Mariana Zapata books. Like, I also have Rhythm, Chord, and Malakin, but this was my very first Mariana Zapata, and I think I actually gave this one 4 stars, so it's not like a 5-star read, but I keep thinking about it, so it's like one of those books that wasn't necessarily perfect, but I still loved. And this is an adult slow burn romance that is sort of like a fake dating marriage of convenience sort of thing between a football player and I believe it was like his assistant, but she doesn't want to be his assistant anymore, was going to quit until they got into this arrangement. And when I say slow burn, I do mean slow burn. This book is huge, but I remember reading it originally on ebook and devouring it. Like, it felt like it didn't take me very long to read, even though this is a huge chunker of a book. And then my Barnes & Noble near me has an amazing store manager who is in charge also of like their romance section, and she is always getting indie books and self-published books in our Barnes & Noble in the romance section specifically, because that's like her genre. And so when I was there one time a couple years ago, they had Mariana Zapata books there, and this was one of them, and I just had to have it. I have read other Mariana Zapata books. My actual favorite is Wait For It, which I still need in a physical copy because I need it on my shelves. I just haven't been able to find it in a store yet because things go in and out all the time. But this one for sure, as soon as I saw it on the shelves, I had to pick it up because I knew I needed it. Number 8 is, do you have an indie book that you think needs more readers? I'm sure a lot of people have indie books that they're like, why aren't you reading these? And for me, it's going to be the books by Laura Diaz de Arce. So these are 2 of her short story collections. She also has a historical fiction romance that I have not read because that's not necessarily my genre, but these are short stories that are a mix of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of stuff. The first one that she came out with is Monstrosity, and the second one is In Absence. This one just came out last year. I gave both of these 5 stars. Like, I absolutely love them to pieces. I love the fact that when she is doing the horror stories, they are so much horror, and when she's doing the more like sci-fi fantasy, they're a good mix of like what those are, but there's also stories in both of these that are a little bit heartwarming. Like, the emotions that she brings out from me is amazing, and this is telling you something because I don't pick up short story collections that often, and literally these are some of my favorite books. Like, the years that I read these were in my top books of the year. And when I tell you that these need more readers, I am not lying. Monstrosity on Goodreads, at least, has 65 ratings, and In Absence, because it is the newest one on Goodreads, has 4. People need to pick these up. There are ebook versions available as well. I fucking love these books. People need to read them. Number 9, do you have a book that started as an indie but has since been picked up by a traditional publisher? Or one that you wish this would happen to? I have here Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So this one started off as an indie, and I think within a few months it ended up being a traditionally published book. I have not read this one yet. It is one that is on my TBR, but I got this, like, this is the traditionally published format, and I love when this happens because I know I love indie books. I know a lot of you love indie books, but there are still some people out there that don't think very highly of books that are self-published or indie published. And so the fact that some of these books are getting traditionally published now is going to mean a whole lot wider of an audience for their authors, and I can't be happier about that. This one is a cozy fantasy that is also going to be sapphic. We have like an orc who has been retired from their marauding days. I actually don't know exactly what kind of work they were in before, but I am super excited to read this. I've heard lots of good reviews, and the cover is gorgeous. Number 10, do you have an indie book that was released in the last year? I'm counting this within the last 12 months, and so I have In Between by M.J. James. This was a book that came out near the end of 2022. I think it was like August. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And this is one that I have read recently. It is going to be a fantasy where our main character is a single mother who is aromantic and asexual and autistic, so the representation is amazing in here. And yes, it is a recent release by this author that people need to start picking up and reading, and so within the last 12 months, this is definitely one that came out. Number 11, do you have an indie book outside of your usual genre? For this, I'm going with The Duke Who Didn't by Courtney Milan. This one is one that I read last year, and this one is actually historical fiction romance. Historical romance? Something like that. I don't read very much historical or historical fiction things, and I read this one last year. Actually, I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it is one that is historical. I don't think it necessarily read super historical, like they weren't trying to have like a certain dialect style for it, which is good for me because that's one of those things that I don't like in books, but it was a very cute, like, friends to lovers sort of second chance romance thing. I really did like it, and so even though it is outside of my normal genre, I picked it up and read it anyway, and it was really cute. Number 12, do you have an indie book that is less than 200 pages? So for this one, I'm going with Cinderella by S.T. Lin. This is a short story. It's actually only like 62 pages, I'm pretty sure is what it is. And this is one that I also read recently. This is part of the Black Trans Fairy Tales by this author. This author is non-binary, but there's a trio of stories out right now. Cinderella is the first one, then we have Mermaid, which is a retelling of The Little Mermaid, and we also have Beauty's Beast, which is obviously a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And all of our protagonists are Black trans feminine, and I absolutely loved this first one. I think it did a really good job of turning the Cinderella story into one that has a trans main character. This one's also sapphic, which I was not expecting going in, but I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's only like 60 something pages, and so it was a very quick read, but I did enjoy my entire time with it. Number 13, do you have an indie book that is actually a comic or graphic novel? So sometimes when people think of things that are indie or self-published, they don't first think of comics and graphic novels, and so I wanted to spread more love for those types of books. This is Hex 11 by Lisa K. Weber and Kelly Sue Milano. This is something that I actually picked up at a Phoenix Comic-Con years ago and have since been following them. I think I ended up with just the first volume at that time because I think this was one that I picked up later. They are still writing issues, and so I'm hoping for a volume 3 soon because I love these bind up editions. But basically this is a world where technology creates magic, and it's very intriguing that way because we're like in that mix of fantasy and sci-fi. I absolutely love the art and the colors, like everything about this is so aesthetically pleasing, but also I'm super curious of where this story is going to go because one of our characters is also like a demon possessed body. Like, there is a great mix of different genres and stuff in here, and I love it so much. So this is one that I feel like people need to pick up and read. Also, just branch out a little bit into more indie and self-published comics and graphic novels. Number 14, do you have an indie book that you have reviewed? So this could be on Goodreads, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Anything like that. So I obviously do a bunch of reviewing on YouTube, like everything that I have read for the last, what, 5 years or more, because I think we're going into my 6th year now of booktube. I have read and reviewed here in some sort of wrap-up, but I also needed to talk about this series, even though it is actually quite a popular indie series. Lots of people know about this. I've talked about it many times on my channel, but this is one that I first read before I started booktube, and I actually wrote a review for every single book on Goodreads as well. And so I just needed to mention the All for the Game series by Nora Sokowicz. The first book is The Foxhole Court, the second book is The Raven King, and the third book is The King's Men. These covers are actually dust jackets, like fan art dust jackets from LL Starcaster LL on Instagram. I will leave them linked down below. So this is not the original cover like these are, but I love this series so much. The dust jackets are so gorgeous I had to buy them to put them on my books. And this is a series that I do not want people to think it is purely a romance series, because sometimes I feel like it is billed like that. But it is going to have male-male romance eventually. One of our characters, like our main character of this whole series, is demisexual. I love the representation that way. But we also have sports. Like, these are technically like sports books. It's a fantasy sport. Like, it's very weird to describe because it's not a sport that exists. It's not a sport that has like super well-known rules. Like, I don't think I could explain it to you. And then we also have very, very hard topics with like mental health and homophobia, and there's mobs and mafia and people murdering things also. It is very, very tough and difficult to describe. Oh, I will also say, in book 2, there is a very sort of like graphic sexual assault sort of thing, so like, be aware of what this is going in. Don't just expect cutesy male-male romance. Like, I don't want people to think that is that type of series, but the characters feel so real that it is one of those things that I am absorbed into every single time I read it, and I love it. And because of that, I wrote reviews on these before I ever started a booktube channel. And then finally, our last prompt is the next indie book on your TBR. So what is the next indie book that is like your priority to read? Mine is going to be I Am Not Your Chosen One by Evelyn Benvie. So this is a book that recently came in a rainbow crate. I have absolutely been loving Rainbow Crate because 1, they have gorgeous editions, but 2, you get 2 books in their boxes. 1 is a traditionally published book and 1 is an indie book. Like, they do this specifically, and their indie books are gorgeous because, like, pretty dust jacket, pretty end papers. It might be a little bit too bright. There we go. Pretty end papers. And then they also have like stuff under the dust jacket and really, really pretty end papers. Did I say end papers? I meant edges. I meant edges for the first one. Then we have end papers. We also have signed book plates. Like, the way that they do these books, they're indie books. It's one of the best indie book boxes that I have personally gotten. I'm so excited for this book. This is one that I had on my radar before, and I just hadn't picked up even as an ebook yet, but like, it's gorgeous. Rainbow Crate also specializes obviously in LGBTQ books, so this has little nutrition facts, and so in this book you will be getting biromantic male representation, gray sexual male representation, non-binary representation, sapphic representation, Vietnamese white biracial representation. It is a contemporary fantasy, and some of the plot tropes and stuff is found family, subverting tropes, prophecies, and cute angels, and it is 100% an adult book. Like, I love that they do that, because even if I knew what the summary was, and I don't, because I am that person that reads the summary, figures out, yeah, I do want to read that book, puts it on my want to read list on Goodreads, and promptly forgets everything about it until I actually have it in my hands and read it. So the fact that we get like little snippets of what this is, what you're getting into, but not the whole summary, I love, because that's what I need. So this is one of the next priority indie books that I have on my TBR because it's gorgeous, but also I need to read it. I'm very excited for the whole like subverting tropes. Like, I Am Not Your Chosen One to me feels like there is some sort of chosen one trope going on, but people are not having it. Like, I'm so excited. And those are all 15 of the prompts. Like I said, some of these, especially at the beginning when you're finding things on covers, I felt were pretty easy, and then as you get further into the list, can be a little bit more complicated. So now I'm going to be choosing some people to tag that I really want to see do this video, especially because I know another round of Indie Accords is probably going to be coming up in the next month or so, because we're getting to that time of year and I'm so excited. So the first people I obviously have to tag are going to be the people that run Indie Accords, Lana and Jordan. I'm also going to be tagging The Reading Wren, a book fiend named Mel, Jessie from The Bookish Mom, and Andrew's Wizardly Reads. So if you have been tagged, make sure you tag me back because I want to see your video. Like, I don't want to miss it. But also feel free for anybody watching this to then proceed to do this video, because I would also like to see what you guys do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!